reason Councilman Lee is kicking and screaming and yelling right now is because of his own conflict of his nonprofit. The one he founded and still leads was a night access of $58 million in public funds.
Please pause the time.
What is the relevance?
He's talking
Okay,
about
do you want to talk about you molesting your niece?
Let's
Out of order. Out of order.
What do you want to talk about?
We will call for a recess. I'm calling for an immediate recess.
Let's talk about
Please
it.
turn off the
Let's
microphone.
talk about it. The second point of order I'd like to point out is that when you read the council policy as somebody who's been molested, sitting here and saying and advocating.
Okay, I will say point of order
Hold
on
on,
that.
hold on. Let me state my point of order.
All right, you talk
Yeah,
to
but
little boys.
Okay, so
it's
I won't.
personal.
So I won't go. I won't talk about surviving child molest. Let me talk about something else.
So right now this is the video I was referring to. One video.
Race the other night, and I was shut down by the mayor. I used to think the mayor was becoming a Karen, but what I realized is that she's a
Concludes
Trump.
public comment, Mayor.
Okay, we will be moving on now to item 3.1. It is a council-led discussion regarding potential charter violations, abuse of authority, and possible misuse of public funds, direction to staff on next steps, and possible referrals to relevant agencies as appropriate. Each council member will have 5 minutes on the item.
Well, I'll go ahead and start it since it was my item. I don't think 5 minutes to talk about the misuse of public funds and to talk about the concerns that I'm going to express is enough time. I'd like to make a motion to eliminate the 5-minute time mark, if I can get a second.
Second.
We can go ahead and vote on that?
You may.
Okay. Council, please vote. Motion fails.
Let the record show that the mayor wants 5 minutes discussing misuse of public funds. Okay, first thing I want to say is that when I ran on a promise and I took an oath, and I take that serious. And everybody knows my record of supporting the mayor, funding different people up here. I was the biggest campaign donor for a couple people, and I used my platform, my show, and everything, all my relationships to get us in because we all ran on a slate called the Stronger, Safer Stockton Coalition, and that's what I believe. I was approached by the mayor after our swearing in, and she said the city manager wanted to resign. I said, fine, let's accept it. 2 days later, we accepted it. A couple days, at that same meeting on the 7th, I made a motion that we have a study session on NOFA funding for housing, and that included not only Vernell Hills project, but also Carroll Analysis Project, because the mayor had told me prior to taking office that she believed that they were done wrong. And I believed as minority developers in this community, they needed to have the opportunity to be heard, and we needed to review that. And the mayor gave me her list of all the people that worked here that she thought were wrong for the city and wanted to see terminated. I came in gaslit. I came in with that hit list, and if you look at the old tape, I was hard as hell on staff. And then I got in here and started to realize quickly after she put the fox in the hen house that I had been used. She told me when she did the seating arrangement she was going to put Ponce next to her to help her vote. She understands, and there are people up here that were in that meeting. If you want me to say where that happened, I can show you tape. The other thing is that once the city manager came in, when she approached me and said that she had a city manager, I blindly followed the mayor and I gave her my support, and we brought in somebody that we all know was unqualified. And that person came in, and after 60 days of no study session on Hunter House, I asked what's happening, where's the study session? And I was told that we didn't need it because it had been handled. When I asked what happened, they said the mayor talked to staff, brought in the city manager, and they overturned the funding denial for millions of dollars. I notified the mayor's consultant I had concerns because I knew that she had received a donation from this person during her campaign, and I thought it was inappropriate. She then returned the donation. So we've been fighting for months behind the scenes since February or March, because I've been trying to resolve this matter behind the curtain. There are several emails. The media can do information requests asking for those emails where I've asked to meet. There was one email from Councilwoman Padilla and the city manager and the mayor asking for unity. The unity is not personal. I'm not going to attack the mayor. This conversation tonight isn't even about the mayor, per se, at least at this point. It's about the city manager and things that have been done since then. I will go through them. The funding denial for Hunter House that was done by City Manager Black and the former Economic Development Director was overturned at the direction of the mayor and the interim city manager without coming to the council. I can't discuss the advice that our city attorney gave them, but let's just say it happened. To move forward, after I raised that and we didn't have the study session, the mayor brought that matter here and overturned the funding denial and voted for them to receive the funding. Moving on, Mr. Hill talked today about how important Service First is. First of all, I support everybody doing business in the city, no matter who you are, whether people like you or not, because I don't have any personal ties to anybody. But I am a man of the four corners of a contract or an agreement. Whatever the contract or agreement is, that's what it is unless we change it publicly. Will, can you scoot over because I can't see the clock? Thank you. The city was made aware of a June 30th letter. And you remember when the beach ship conversation about reviving the youth center was here, the mayor said that it didn't pass the smell test. Well, I was, looking as the chair of the audit committee. We have no CFO, no AFCFO, no budget officer, no auditor. We have no internal controls over our finances. So I have been looking into things to make sure that we are above board and that our money, taxpayer money, not our money, but your money is being spent properly. I was given a letter that all of the council up here has a copy of that I've given to the media, where the interim city manager sent a letter to Mr. Hill committing 10% of an $8.2 million grant, which is over $800,000 that exceeds the discretion of a city manager. He sent the letter, and because of that, Mr. Hill was given a conditional state award of $8 million, conditional upon this letter not being a fraudulent instrument. The mayor and everybody here knows because the mayor was copied on that. None of us up here were copied. We as a council lead the city, not one person. This is not a strong mayor city. This is a manager, council, managed city. And so when I brought that information to the mayor after she asked about meeting to move forward, she's denied me the opportunity to meet privately. I don't have it in me to turn my back on this matter because we have said we're going to give $800,000 to an individual that didn't go through a competitive process, that was not sanctioned by the council, and in fact, we don't have the cash for that, and there was no funding available for that project. There are other matters. I'll go into one, Sutter Street. There's a letter in your packet where the city manager waived $200,000 in code enforcement fines. I'll come back.
Is there another
again.
council member that wishes to speak? Councilwoman Padilla?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have some questions for our city attorney regarding item 3.1 specifically. City Attorney Asuncion. So given the fact that a city manager, his spending authority is $100,000, can you confirm whether or not a commitment letter issued is considered legally binding?
So I think any commitment that purports to be made on behalf of the city that exceeds the city manager's authority, whether that's, his $100,000 in authority or delegated authority of some other sort, in the absence of that authority, I think the city would argue likely that it's not legally binding, depending on the will of the council.
Thank you. So having exceeding authority, can this letter be enforced by the Department of Healthcare Services? And does it constitute a financial commitment from the city?
I think the wording of the letter, it purports to do exactly that. How the state views the commitment letter and, what actions they might take on next steps following up with the city, I can't speak to that. But, I think that, again, I'll refer back to my previous response with regard to exceeding the city manager or the interim city manager's authority and or, again, depending on the will of the council. And just to expand on that a bit, I would say that the council ultimately has control of all of the actions that are within your authority. So if the council wanted to do something about that, you could have that brought back before the council and you could do, a ratification of that. But absent something like that occurring, we would make the arguments that I referred to before and, what the state would do, I don't know, right? Maybe they would make requests. Maybe the developer or the project developer might. I can't speak to that.
Okay, so without council action, is the city under any legal or financial obligation to honor the prior interim city manager's letter?
I don't have any facts before me right now to suggest that the city has any such obligation unless the council wants to honor it.
Okay, so if the city elects not to match, is it my understanding that the city, there will be no penalty or financial liability to the city, and ultimately Service First, their award would be rescinded.
So I haven't had I wasn't involved in this process, so I didn't have the ability to look through, whatever the award documentation was that was provided by the state or that was submitted. So I'm going to have to defer and kick that over to the city manager's office to see if they have the answer. I don't know if they do, but I know I do not.
Okay, so just for clarification, though, the city faces no penalty or liability. And to my understanding, the only consequence would be that the Department of Healthcare Services may rescind Service First conditional award.
That's certainly one option. Whether there are other options, I don't know. Again, I would have to review the agreement, but I'm not aware of any others.
Okay. So in this case, specifically this case, issuing a commitment letter outside one spending limit authority, does it constitute a criminal offense or indicate any evidence of fraud, personal financial gain, or intentional misuse of public funds? And I'm referring to this case specifically.
So a lot of those questions are highly fact dependent, but I will say this. Normally, when you have an employee that acts beyond their, delegated or, otherwise whatever authority has been given to them or granted to them, I think that it's normally handled as an administrative matter in the form of a personnel action. Criminal law is a really broad category, and so the most that I can say without, specific allegations or knowing the elements of whatever crime is being alleged is that criminal law has a really high bar, right? It's a high standard to meet. And let's say we're talking about something like fraud, right? I'm not familiar enough with the underlying facts to weigh in on that at this juncture.
Okay. So my colleagues know I do my own research, and so I went out on a limb, and we were provided with some documentation and a letter. And that letter had a director's name on it. Her name was Marlise Perez from the Department of Healthcare Services. So I called her, because how else can we get facts? And surprisingly, she called me back. And when she called me back, we had a discussion. She provided me with the most recent conditional letter, which is dated November 7th, 2025. And clerk, would you provide these to my council members? There's actually a stapled as well as a loose paper. So the questions were specific to this project, and she provided me with the most updated information relative to this grant. And so with that, I just want to make sure that all my colleagues have the same information that I received. And so I wanted to give everybody the updated numbers, okay? So based on the updated numbers, typically the 10% match is based on the conditional award. However, Service First had provided additional funds in the amount of $67,000, and there was also an estimated amount of $74,000 and some change. I don't have a copy for myself. Do you mind? Sorry. So back to my explanation. The award was $8,239,637. 10% of that would have been $823,963.73. Service First had initiated some sunk costs in the amount of $67,000 as well as $74,477.73. Those sunk costs total $141,477.73. Service First has obligated or has committed an additional $180,000 to the project. Myself has also confirmed that the county, by 2 supervisors, are looking for a contribution in the amount of $300,000. So with the sunk costs, with Service First contribution, as well as a county contribution, minus the original conditional award, would mean that the final city match comes to approximately
Thank you. Thank you.
$202,000.
Thank you. I see Vice Mayor's light flashing, but are there any other councils? Every council member has an opportunity to speak before it goes back. No. Councilmember Villapudua?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Before I start, I just want to let everyone know, if you watched the last Tuesday's meeting, I did say no, I wasn't going to be here. My agenda was always complete. I always go to all the meetings. I don't miss my meetings. I don't miss my committee meetings. I have neighborhood watch meetings in my district. So just because he's here, I'd have to follow his schedule. It don't go like that. So reschedule, we're here now. End of period. So I just wanted to make sure of that. I have other things that we do. So because he's here, we have to jump. No, we don't have to do that. We can always reschedule. Now, if there's other meetings that are scheduled, like every other Tuesday, yeah, we're supposed to all be here. But when it's a special meeting, that's because he made it in a short notice, doesn't mean that we have to all be there. I'm not here to speak on my colleagues, but I'm just talking about myself. So that being said, the truth is what we are dealing with tonight isn't about transparency or accountability. It's about one person, Councilmember Jason Lee, and on his ongoing mission to defame, to slander, and to tear down the reputation of our former interim city manager. That's what it is and has been about from day one. And unfortunate because instead of doing the work of the people, fixing streets, improving neighborhoods, supporting real community projects, we end up spending our time putting on these congressional styling hearings where Councilmember Lee is the main attraction and star of the show. He's turning the city hall into a reality show. And I'll tell you straight up, I don't
Can you
support that.
pause the time, please? Please make sure that you stick to the comments regarding this agenda item. Thank you.
Well, I don't disrespect towards the mayor, towards the city staff, and towards the entire process has to stop. It's the waste of everyone's time and energy. On top of that, he has disrespected his fellow council members and the taxpayers of Stockton by threatening.
Point of order. We're talking about a misuse.
Excuse me. First of all, you need to reference your point of order, and those in the audience, please know that I went over the proper decorum 4.06.
So point of order requires you to acknowledge my point of order. That's what Rosenberg's Rules of Order requires you to acknowledge.
Yes.
my point of order. So
which item?
Okay, so my point of order is, this is not a kangaroo court to talk about me. It's to talk about the agenda. Hold on, Mayor, let me finish my point of order. Okay?
You need to cite
let me finish.
I have
You will
mic
let
still.
me finish the
And
point
then
of
we can
order.
vote.
See, the problem is, my point of order is that the collusion to cover up the discussion is quite frustrating. The public is watching. So let me state my point of order. Okay, the point of order is that this is not about a reality show, my platform, my followers, all of which you all use to get in office. This is about the item right here in front of us, in front of the public, that most of you did not show up for, and it is for a special meeting-led discussion regarding potential charter violations, abuse of authority, and possible misuse of public funds, direction to staff on next steps, and possible referrals to relevant agencies. What I'm hearing, instead of there being questions around the packet that's been presented, is I've heard all of you show up as his defense attorneys when we're talking about their taxpayer dollars that we're all responsible for managing and overseeing. So my point of order is the discussion should be relevant to the subject matter, and it is not a personal attack. What's becoming personal is the cover-up that's happening up here on this dais in front of us.
I hear your point of order.
So keep it on the subject matter. Keep it on the subject matter, please.
Okay, so
That's all
in
I'm
the
asking.
future, please provide which Rosenberg rule that you are referencing.
In the future, lead the meeting under the rules that you established.
We are.
Okay.
But if you're going to point of order.
Mayor, I don't
you
have an
need to make
intention to go back and forth
sure
with you to make this a zoo. Go ahead and
I'm not
focus on the
making it a
matter
zoo.
in front of the public. Let's deal with this matter. We have a letter here to the state saying that
Okay,
this man
All right.
Councilmember
authorized $800,000.
Councilmember
continue, Mayor?
Villapudua, the floor is yours for the
Thank you.
243.
Before I got all this, okay. So this project that will bring over 100 units of housing to the district that I represent, if that means that the city partners with a proven nonprofit that's been doing work in this community for decades. And if that partnership ends up costing $200,000, even $300,000, I gladly support it because it's something that truly benefits our residents. There's no fraud here. There's no money has been exchanged. No commitment by the city has even been realized. And at the difference between what's happening here tonight and what have we've been forced to deal because of council members' actions, let's be honest, the only reason Councilman Lee is kicking and screaming and yelling right now is because of his own conflict of his nonprofit. The one he founded and still leads was denied access of $58 million in public
Please
funds.
pause the time.
What is the relevance?
He's talking
Okay,
about
do you
beach
want to talk about you molesting your
item is
niece?
beach
What,
chip.
let's
Out
talk
of order,
about
out
it.
of order,
What do you
out
want
of
to talk
order.
about?
We will call for a
about it.
recess.
Brando
I'm calling for an
Brando
immediate
Epstein.
recess.
Let's talk about
Please
it.
turn off the
Let's
microphone.
talk about it.
Calling the meeting back to order. I just want to remind council and the audience that there are rules. I have Rosenberg's right here. When there is a proper interruption of point of order, the chair would ask to state that person's point. Anything that would not be considered appropriate conduct of the meeting. For example, if the chair moved on a vote, a motion that permits debate without allowing discussion or debate, ultimately the chair, the presiding officer, has authority. I also want to point to the policy that governs conduct of council. It is a policy 3.13.010. There are several parts here. 1A2, treat each other, staff, members of the public, with dignity, courtesy, and respect. Moving on to 3.13.010, 3A5, avoid offensive, negative comments and practice civility. That is also here. So just know that moving forward, I will be enforcing that policy. Again, if it's a point of order, state your point.
Point of
But
order.
we're not going to, I'm not done speaking, just.
Okay. Well, point of order does
And we
interrupt
will
the
be
debate.
going over each of those items. I would like nothing more than to finish the discussion tonight while everybody is here. I don't want to have to come back. I don't want to have to adjourn the meeting, ask to adjourn the meeting. We would like to finish this meeting tonight. So please, I ask the audience, I ask council, we can get through this. Let's just be civil to one another.
Point of order.
State your point.
Okay, 2 points. First, I'd like to point out, in terms of the discussion, the item 3.1 is the discussion item. Nowhere in there is there anything about me. That is item 3.2. I would say to the chair that if any member of the council wants to add to their list on that witch hunt, they do so at a later time. This matter before the public and the media is strictly about a letter the city manager, without this council authority, submitted to the state or to an important developer of our community, a fraudulent document that they provided to the state, giving authorization and commitment to $824,000 of cash without council approval. Anything outside of that is far beyond the scope of what we're here to talk about and violates your own rules. The second point of order I'd like to point out is that when you read the council policy as somebody who's been molested, sitting here and saying and advocating.
Okay, I will say point of order on that.
Hold on. Let me state my point of order.
All right, you talk
Yeah,
to
but
little
you're-
boys.
Okay, so
It's
I won't.
personal.
So I won't talk about surviving child molest. Let me talk about something else. Your own point. My point of order on your own rule is that it has to apply even-handedly. Okay, because when Councilwoman Padilla screamed at the public, and you threw everybody out of here. You didn't read that rule, and you didn't lay that law down. And the whole point that
Now,
I've been trying.
that's not
Can I
the
finish my
item.
point of
That's
order?
not the item that
Let me
we're
finish my point
discussing.
of order. I'm addressing your own rule and how you're
Well,
chairing our
and
meeting.
I
This
said
is
we're
our
moving
meeting. So
forward.
let me be clear. There's tape to show that you have not mentioned that same rule, which I will follow. And
since
appreciate the
then,
recess.
I have.
Okay, I appreciate the recess, Mayor. Thank you for giving us a break. The only thing I will say is that moving forward, let the rules apply to all evenly. Thank you.
Agree.
Can we get back to the item? I'm waiting to talk.
And I also would point out that at the beginning of the discussion, there was a whole lot of talk about me and campaign donations. I don't see that there either.
That was from the
But
public, not from me.
we will get into that as well. So, Councilmember Villapudua, you still have 1 minute, 49 seconds.
Thank
Please
you,
make
Mayor.
sure that you address
Yeah,
the
well-
item at hand.
Thank you. Just basically, I just want to say that this was a good organization that did everything by the book. So they were dragged through the mud because of this nonsense. They didn't deserve that, so that's pretty much all I got all to say. Was interrupted many times, but I'll let other colleagues speak.
As already asked and answered by Councilwoman Padilla and our city attorney, the former ICM could not commit actual dollars to any project over $100,000. And there is no conflict of interest. I have all my FPPC paperwork here. In my 17 years in local government, I have been a strict rule follower. I meet every deadline on every reporting period with the FPPC, and that will never change. What also won't change is my brand, which is serving the people of Stockton. That is why I was elected 3 times. Even when I didn't have the support or endorsement of big money and the establishment, I've always stood on my own 2 feet, and my record in office confirms that. While all of us have received campaign donations, Councilmember Lee and his friends did not contribute $50,000, $70,000 to my campaign. You can view it all on the city's website.
Point of order.
There's a section on the FPPC
Point of order.
dating.
Point of order.
Pause my time.
Point of order. Okay, Mayor.
State your point.
Mayor, as I told you privately in email and in your office, this item is not about you per se. This item is strictly, it's not about whether or not Service First is a good organization or not, because on January 7th, I voted to have a public discussion on their funding denial. That didn't happen because it was overturned in private, and that public discussion was not allowed to happen. This item that we're talking about is not whether or not you have good history as an elected. I endorsed you, I supported you, my team supported you, and I helped fund it. So of course I believed in you. That is not the question. This is not about you. This is also not a court where we need to try the matter in front of the public. This is simply a discussion on referring it to an agency to let them fact find the same way you did while and out and every other thing that you thought there were some questions. And I think that what's good for the goose should be good for the gander, and anything different doesn't pass the smell test. So again, I'm not making this about you. I think we're dealing with matters that were done with the last city manager. And I'm simply saying that if there's a letter, and again, it's not about whether or not Vernell should be funded, whether or not he should get the funding from the state. I think if he can get the money, he should develop it because we need it in the community. It is about process. And Charter Section 2002, City Manager Expenditure Authority, does not give him the authority to even write the letter. Whether or not it's a check that got cashed, I don't know, because we haven't investigated
Okay,
if money
so
left the city
I
or
heard
not.
your point.
Okay.
I heard your point of order. I will continue on a different vein. Okay? This was mentioned earlier in the comments about being beholden. You know, the vice mayor did support me, but I'm not beholden to him. I did support and endorse him. He is not beholden to me. There is no quid pro quo, okay? It's not ethical and it's illegal. We have to base our judgment on the merit of the items that come before us. So, as we look at this, and I know this was handed to us today, I know Councilwoman Padilla gave us information as well, and it is about getting things done. That's why people elected us to office, is to get things done. This project, I think, is smart government. If you do the math, over 100 beds and services with the city, and it's cheap. Even if it was 200, 300,000, we're not talking about $6 million or anything in excess of that. I am bound by purpose, not politics. I will continue no matter how heavy it gets, because the people demand, as we've seen tonight, and deserve better, and they deserve action. And yes, council and staff have more important things to focus on. We need to clean up this city. We need to get homeless off the street. We need to reduce crime and gun violence. I could go on and on, but I'm not. I don't want to, okay? So I have the timeline for the B-CHIP grant, because there's 2 different rounds. I'm happy to provide that to my council. I did get a call from the chair of the county who said that they would be providing financial support to the project. I would love to have this council support the project, just was mentioned a second ago, and I would like to have it agendized on our meeting on the 18th of November, so we can have that further discussion on the specific item that we have. Okay? Okay. Councilmember Blower, you haven't spoken yet.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that I look at this item, and this isn't, about Service First of Northern California, whether or not they're good or bad. I think that, it's not, this shouldn't reflect poorly on them at all. I think they've done a lot of good in our community. This was more just a matter of, hearing this letter came out, and that it was, sounded like it was obligating our council to do something beyond the scope of what the interim city manager had. So I think that's really, to steer things back to kind of where what this item is. It does sound like the question's been asked, that he didn't have the authority to do that, but we aren't financially obligated to it. Now, one thing I would like to see this item on a future agenda, because I do want to hear like the actual numbers. I want to hear, my first question when I saw this was $823,963.73. Do we have that money? Where's that money coming from? So, there's questions. Now, what Councilmember Padilla handed us, and she kind of got cut off from time, and she didn't get the bottom line and it sounds like with the county throwing in money, I think Service First got some money, and if this is true, that says final city match $202,486. So that's a lot easier to swallow. I look at these B-CHIP grants. I want money to come to my city. I think this council made a mistake not going after the other B-CHIP money that was before us. And I'm a big fan of getting as much federal dollars, as much state dollars. Anything that we can get into our city, I think, is a good thing. I think what's clear with what I've seen here is that I don't think interim city manager Colangelo should have sent that letter without talking to the council about that. I don't know that there's a lot we can do about it at this point. So from what city attorney, from what you were saying, can you kind of address that? I mean, what are looking at that letter, you're saying like for it to be fraud or something like that is kind of a high bar to establish, or what are your thoughts?
So criminal matters generally have a higher bar than civil. I haven't looked into this item as far as whether there are criminal charges that can be brought. I haven't looked at it to see if any of the elements can be met. That was not asked of me at this juncture.
So in your opinion, just looking at what this item is all about, next steps and possible referrals to relevant agencies as appropriate. Do you think there are any agencies you think it's appropriate to send to, or do you think we'd be barking up the wrong tree.
So I guess it would depend on what this council is, is focused on, right? If you're focused on whether there were any criminal violations, then that's an easy one. There's only one entity that addresses, well, I guess two if you go to the state level, but you're talking about the DA or potentially the, DOJ, right? And if you're talking about something else, I guess I'd have to know specifically what you're looking at, what you're.
So is this something we could send to the DA and let him figure it out if it's an issue or not?
Certainly, either individually or as a group, you always have that option of reaching out and asking the question.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Ponce?
Thank you, Mayor.
Excuse me, in the audience, this is your first warning. I was almost asleep. That's your warning, but it wasn't for you. It was for Ms. Gonzalez. But it can be for you too. It was not a warning for you. Oh, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I am grateful for this meeting and the opportunity to prove to the public that we are committed to transparency as we have nothing to hide. I have studied this project, and I must say that this is something that I could support. We're talking about minimal contribution on the city's part that will provide much needed housing.
Point of order, Mayor. Point of order. I'm sorry. This item, again, here's my point
Please,
of order.
okay,
Here's my point
state
of
your
order.
point.
I'm going to give it to you.
I can't.
And I'm sorry if the democratic process is causing people to be frustrated, but this is what it is. The item for discussion is regarding potential charter violations, abuse of authority, and possible misuse of public funds, direction to staff on next steps, and possible referrals to relevant agencies as appropriate. This is not whether or not Vernell Hill's company is great or not, whether or not we need the money here or not, whether or not the community likes it or not, or whether we like it or not. That can be scheduled for another day, and I welcome that discussion. We need to keep the discussion strictly to the item. That is what you said, and that is what I'm committed to doing.
I hear your point of order. I appreciate it. The item does include the letter
Sure, it doesn't
for
include whether it's good or not.
for the grant.
No, absolutely. It doesn't, having a discussion at this, city attorney, is it appropriate for us to have a discussion as a council of whether or not this is a needed project or not for the community based on the agenda item?
So I think that certainly this council is likely to have, bits and pieces of conversation or commentary as you discuss the topic that's been agendized. Whether you can talk about the project itself and whether it's a good project that you're going to move forward or vote on or take action on, that's outside the parameters of this agendized item. But ultimately, the ruling on the topic will belong to the presiding officer. And in the event that there's a disagreement, there's a motion, second, and vote, and it requires a 2/3 vote to overturn the presiding officer's decision.
So based on what you said, at discussing the topic that we may have to vote on later, right now, that's not this agenda item, is outside the boundaries of this discussion.
Sure. Other than very limited commentary directly connected to this agendized topic, yes, you don't want to go in depth and talk about something that's not been agendized.
Just stating for the record, but thank you.
Okay, so Councilwoman Ponce, do you have something germane directly about the possible misuse of funds, charter violations, abuse of authority?
Thank you, Mayor. No, not at this moment.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. That you will combine with the county and service first funds. Also, what's the deadline? There was a negotiation between the interim city manager, Vernell copying the mayor on this funding, and in this email, it was asking if it was $300,000. When the final letter on June 30th that was issued to the state talks about, and it says, this letter serves as an official commitment from the city of Stockton confirming our intention to provide matching funds to support the Service First of Northern California Recovery Project. That in itself requires inquiry, because what we're saying now is that every other city manager, this city attorney, Harry Black, every manager, anybody that works here can send a letter confirming cash of up to 10%, exceeding the amount that we've set in our Constitution by 8 times, and then we come here and we debate whether or not it's okay or not. I think what the reason why it needs to go to a referring agency is because I believe not only is this an instrument of fraud, intended to fraud the state out of funding, which, again, not debating the project whether it's necessary or not, because we all could agree we need support services and more funding here. But it is process, protocol, and making sure that we're following our own rules. This opportunity wasn't provided to Carol Ornelas. It wasn't provided to any other developer because it wasn't something that was out there. This was something that somebody negotiated via email and was approved. And whether or not there's a violation of FPPC related to your campaign donation or not, that is between you and the FPPC. You're not the subject of this topic, per se. The topic is that we have a city manager who made this authority. I want to go to another item here, Sutter Street. Another opportunity where our police department went out to enforce the code enforcement and fees, and they were handed a letter from the city manager to Hakeem Ellis, Marengo, and Ramirez, saying, as I discussed, I put a development team together to renovate the Henry Apartments, and this is what he's saying. He's basically saying that we will no longer pursue code enforcement fees against the property, which he did not have the authority to waive, and all of our residents out here who have code enforcement fees don't have that same luxury. Therefore, this should not be provided here, and the amount was $200,000. Even if he had the authority of waiving $100,000, this further exceeds by 100%, and this city is aware of that. And then there's a check that I believe was written in cash, and we don't know where that check is because we can't find it. Then I want to go into another topic. You know, Mayor, there's the Bricks property that, you know, belongs to somebody else who donated to your campaign, Zach Court. In that, the city manager doubled the value of the property, then tried to pressure staff in the Economic Development Department to create funding and a NOFA that was limited in scope just to that individual. And there's lots of emails and back and forth here, and you were involved in those meetings as well, and I don't know the discussion because you were in them and not us, but that is a matter that needs to be looked into. Because when that person was denied that the moving forward, they put you back on an email and tried to pressure staff into setting them up for funding and for the city to pay the double amount of the property, which is a gross misconduct, and it is fraud. And the other thing is that, let's be clear, what started out as me being concerned about maybe a manager making bad decisions, based on this conversation alone, knowing how we've handled other matters of—
Point of order, Mayor. The discussions he's talking about.
Pause my time.
What's your point? State your
It's
point.
not even about this agenda he's discussing.
Oh, it's—
No, it's about potential fraud or misuse of funds.
Thank
So-
you, Mayor.
Allegations, all right.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, my concern isn't whether or not, to be very clear, the mayor did anything or not. Sometimes people do things to cozy up to people or to make people look good or to help people. I don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. So what you do when you don't know what happens is you send it through a process and you allow the governing agencies to look into it. All I'm saying is we don't need to try it here. We don't need to point fingers. I'm not even blaming the mayor. I would not come out here and say, she did this, she did this, she did that. That's going to be on the next item. I'm saying, as people who are responsible for fiscal management and preventing our city from going back into bankruptcy, we need to be good stewards of taxpayer resources and efficient and effective government, and we need to refer this out. Thank you.
Councilwoman Ponce. Councilwoman Padilla.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I sure hope my questions followed the agenda. I don't want to be attacked by any means.
Point of order.
Anyways,
Point of order.
in this
Point of
case,
order.
What is your point of, what's your,
Just going
state
back,
your point?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just going back to the Rosenberg Rules of Order, enforcing the rules that govern how we do business for the city is not bullying. And I think to continue to racial trope and build this perception that I am attacking you or hurting you. It's just it's a gross
say a person.
misrepresentation. Excuse me. It's a gross misrepresentation of what's actually happening. What I'm doing in a very calm, professional manner is holding us accountable to our own rules. And I'm not going to attack anybody. I'm going to hold everybody accountable to following our rules as I'm being held accountable. That is fair, and that was what I will do consistently.
Thank you.
And from the beginning of this meeting, I strongly feel that I have followed these rules as all my questions pertained to this agenda item. And I just want to clarify back with city attorney, specifically in this case, does issuing any commitment letter outside of spending authority constitute any criminal offense or evidence of fraud, personal financial gain, or intentional misuse of public funds?
So the most I can say in this meeting is that maybe. I don't have all the facts. I haven't interviewed any of the people involved. I wasn't involved in the process myself. I haven't looked at the documents. The first I heard about the state documents that you raised today was today. So I don't have all that information. I can't tell you whether it's a violation. I can tell you that it could be or it could not be. You know, and the only way to know is if you look into it. Whether you look into that or not is up to the council.
And correct me if I'm wrong, originally, one of your answers stated that typically this would be an administrative matter that we would handle internally. Is that accurate?
It is. If you have an employee that acts beyond the scope of whatever authority belongs to them or that you as a council have delegated to them, that is usually handled administratively as a personnel action.
So this individual is no longer here. Typically, what would be the normal process if an individual is still here and they issued a commitment letter outside of their authority, spending authority?
The council would address it with their employee. In this case, it's the manager, so it's your direct appointee, as you see fit.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Point of information, city attorney. In your 18 years, have you ever seen a city manager write a letter in support of something that exceeds their authority by 8 times in granting cash without council approval? That you can recall.
So I haven't been the city attorney for all 18 plus years of my time here, but during my time as city attorney, I haven't come across a similar situation that I can recall.
Okay. And then another point of information. I have the right to ask that question. Point of information. Is it council's option to have a further inquiry, a legal inquiry, to make the determination that my colleague, Councilwoman Padilla, asked, meaning beyond you and trying this here and having you be the judge of whether or not this is fraud or not? It's the council's discretion to decide if we do a further inquiry with an agency that's equipped with the investigators and the rules and the laws and all that to make a further determination.
Yes, how the council chooses to address this issue, if you choose to address it, is up to the council.
And then the last point of information, Councilman Padilla asked a great question. If the city creates an instrument to a developer or a business person making a commitment, and I think the document says the intention to commit $800,000 or 10% match of funds, cash, could a person who receives that letter then come back and say the city did not fulfill its intention and make it a dispute that could be tried? Not whether or not they'll prevail is a different question, but could they sue us if they wanted to?
I think we've talked about this before in other contexts. I think people can sue for many reasons, good, bad, or otherwise. Whether there's a cause of action based on these facts, I don't know, because I have not done that in-depth analysis.
But they could bring a cause of action against the city.
Yes, and it is possible for people to bring actions if they find an appropriate one.
Thank you.
Okay, so a couple things. I did share with everybody the B-CHIP timeline, round 1, round 2, just so you can get an idea. If you turn to the second page, the back of the first page, what letters of support for matching funds mean, it has to go to the financial viability of the project. There is no one single entity, meaning, just us, just county, just health plan of San Joaquin. There can be multiple letters of support provided. In the letter, there was no amount stated, and I believe that was purposeful because, yes, it would have to come back to council, hence the letter that Councilwoman Padilla gave us tonight, which is a different amount. It isn't even the $823,963.73. So at this juncture, which is why I gave the outline, at this juncture, there is now a new amount, and there's a new due date of when there has to be documentation of where that match funding is coming from. Up until this point, there has been no money spent, no transfer of funds, no money has changed hands at all. It is not, as it was said earlier by the city attorney, it's a non-binding letter. It could not be enforced. And again, I've done this quite a bit. I know that several people provide letters of support. And yes, there is a competitive NOFA project that we are putting out that will be coming out at the end of this month because we had a whole session on it. Well, one went out October 31st, I think, and there'll be another one going out for CDBG. There are a lot of funding streams that are there. What one was identified for this, we don't know. It was a letter of support. And again, there was no dollar amount tied to it. So we can speculate, we can have an, create an innuendo as to what the amount was, but we don't know. What we do know is that no money has transferred and no money has been spent on this item. That's all I wanted to say on that. Councilwoman Padilla. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for that. I just want to note for the record that I've talked to Paul Canepa directly, and I have different information that I want to be very clear. He said that him and the Director of Behavioral Health Services both made it clear to Mr. Hill that they were not providing funding. So the representation of whether or not the county is going to give funding or intends to or not is not germane to the topic here. Number two, the letter that the councilwoman provided, we did not get that letter from the state. We got that letter from Councilwoman Padilla. The state, I do have a document that Mr. Hill, and he knows this, submitted proof of half funding that was approved by the city in the first round, and that got denied. So therefore, then this became a backup to that request from the state. The state had a meeting with Mr. Hill the other day and had a conversation with his, or not him, he didn't show his board members to discuss this topic. And here's the deal, whether or not he gets the funding or not is not the topic. The topic is we manage a city manager that has to operate within certain rules. The rule is the city manager does not have the authority to commit more than $100,000. Even if he didn't authorize $824,000, which is the 10% match, because it says we'll provide the match. He's in the email with you copied on it discussing providing $300,000, which still exceeds by 200%. Therefore, still is something worth questioning. The other thing is I want to note for the record how much you all are defending this matter and this person and how you all did not spend a fraction of this on the other investigations. The other thing I want to point out is that we don't know what was sent out or not because we don't have an auditor here to testify to that. We don't have a budget officer. We don't have a CFO, an AFCFO, and we don't have a director of procurement. What we have is council members defending the action of an individual who is already under an investigation for submitting a fraudulent budget, for destruction of DEI, and other concerns. So all I would say, Mayor, is that the request here is simple. It's not an attack or an indictment on your character, what you're involved in or not. What I'm saying is to be consistent with your request on moving forward so we can unify the city and put everything behind us is let's put everything on the table, let's send it to an agency and let them bring us closure so we can get back to the important work that you talked about. Once it's looked at from people outside this council, then we can determine whether or not there's a conspiracy, whether or not there's a collusion, whether or not there's other people involved, whether or not this decision came from other places. Because even sitting up here watching everybody reading from prepared notes and phones and computers and all this and that, I don't know who's talking. What I know is that I didn't come in here with pre-written notes. I just have documents that have come from this organization.
Point of order. Make sure we stay on
Oh,
the
yeah,
topic.
it is fraud and conspiracy, because I do believe that there is a conspiracy now to evade.
It didn't say conspiracy.
Okay. Potential misuse of public funds, okay, charter violations. The charter violation on the email alone, between you and the city manager making this decision or having a conversation outside of this council and the public, is a charter violation, because Section 408 doesn't allow any one of us to direct staff to do anything. This city manager right here wouldn't do it. He would bring it here to council and let us fight it out in the public, and that's the proper way to do it. What we know for sure is that we let the fox in the hen house and he ate up all the hen. And so now, in order for us to move forward and unify our council and do the work of the city that you talk about, that I share with you, and that commitment, is that we take these concerns and the optics that are creating question in the community, that have been highly publicized and online, and it puts it in an agency with authority who has the ability to effectively look through it. There's a political corruption unit at the district attorney's office. There's the attorney general's office. All I'm saying is, what harm is it in simply sending the referral and letting them do the work? Not to mention, it won't cost us or the taxpayers any time. We've sat here and asked our city attorney to give us all of the legal advice, and she didn't even have time to go through all of this, and she wasn't consulted on whether or not to even do all this. So to put her in a position to give us the answers that the attorney general or the district attorney can do, I think is unfair. But I think that to evade sending this out, when the public has watched us do it to everything else, send it to the grand jury too, I think it builds the perception of the cover-up. I have nothing to cover here. I didn't know about any of this. None of you, to my knowledge, know about it. But to not send it out when you know better and refuse to do better makes you complicit.
Councilwoman Padilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the record, I want to advise that the letter that I provided to council was directly from Marlise Perez. It's in my email if you want to do a records request. She sent it to me on November 10th.
Okay, so what is the pleasure of council? We've had a recommendation, even though this individual is no longer in our employ and we don't have any ability internally, and we don't know whether or not money has transferred. I know, is Mr. Reed back there? I would just say, because he signs the checks. So, but regardless of that, it's not,
I just want to do a point of information.
the two letters were very different. And whether or not money was transferred, we don't know. And I think what you sent said 300,000 question mark. And so there wasn't a final number that was there.
Point of information, Mayor. I guess I'll ask you the question. You know that there's a pending matter before the city related to disparate treatment of council members and staff and the disparate application of the rules that may be racially motivated. Please tell me, what's the difference in pursuing an outside investigation?
I'm asking if you're going to do a motion, or what are you going to do?
No, my question is, because
what direction?
You keep trying the case in the public, and when it came to Wild 'N Out, you didn't do that. So what I'm asking is, what's the difference between this and that, where we said we just want to make sure nothing was wrong to clear it all up? What's the difference now with this versus that? I'm just asking that we do the same, be consistent, so that way we know where the goalposts and the rules are.
Well, if that is your pleasure, you can.
I'll make the motion. But
Go
before I
ahead
do
and do
so,
that.
city attorney, point of information.
Or it's direction.
If the council refuses to vote, or if the 4-3 block vote down transparency, accountability, and investigation, can any individual council member or member of the public ask the district attorney or attorney general's office to investigate these matters?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I make a motion to refer these matters out to the attorney general and the district attorney's political corruption units and the grand jury. And the second matter that I'd like is to direct our city attorney, our acting city manager to notify Ms. Perez at the state and our partners at the state that this was not a council-approved item. And then thirdly, the council, if they wish, can send the matter back to council for consideration, and then, you know, we can deal with it there. But there's three action items. One, refer this out to the district attorney's political corruption unit, the grand jury, and the attorney general's office. Two, rescind the letter with Marlise Perez because the council did not give authority. And three, agendize the matter for council to have a discussion in front of the public and give others an opportunity to apply.
I'll second.
Friendly amendment. I don't think there needs to be a rescinded letter since we have a new one. So that's,
Well,
that would be my amendment.
Clarify my motion, Mayor.
You can, because once you get this confirmed, it states that that other one is no longer applicable.
Okay, let me clarify this, Mayor. I'm not trying whether or not the funding's been approved or not, whether it's worth it or not, whether there's a procedural issue at the state or not. What I'm saying is, we control what we can control. We control the staff that report to us and the work they do under our charter. The city manager, whether he works here or not, did not have the authority to send that letter. It didn't come from this council. And in order for us to ensure that the fabric of ethical governance is happening here, where everything seen in the light happened in the light, not what's happened in the dark happens in the light, we have to maintain the fabric of this body that was elected by the public to ensure the management of our fiscal management. I think to not send a letter sends the message that anybody can send a letter out from staff, and it sets the bar that now any staff that sends out a letter making a commitment of funds that exceeds 100,000 or 200,000, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is okay, because we cannot hold anybody else accountable from this day forward who sends a letter out. And I think that would be reckless management of our duties.
Okay, so may I make a comment off that? I don't have any issue sending this off. I would like it to be one and done, and then we can move forward.
Oh, you mean, yeah, of course. Here's the deal. Again, I want to be clear for the public and the media. I'm not out here saying that the mayor went in a room and told him to do this, do that. I don't know what happened. That's the point, right? But what I cannot do is I can't turn my head to what's in front of me, because that's the oath we took. So I want to be clear. This whole thing is not that the mayor set all this up. This is that we had a manager who did things that did not fall within the guidelines of our Constitution, the city constitution, which is the charter, and the governance of this body. So outside of that, what happens in the investigation, what they find and all that, I don't know. I know that I don't know anything. I'm not saying that the mayor knows anything, but what I do know is that these to me look like fraudulent activity that needs to be looked at. So yeah, Mayor, that's the clarification.
Yes, so not saying anybody has done anything, just allowing somebody to look into it.
Yeah, to have them investigate, and whatever they find, they can deal with it.
Councilmember Blauer?
So to be clear, because there seemed like there were several things in that motion. I mean, I think it makes sense to send these allegations, because clearly our city attorney, she can't tell us the legal aspects. That's, you know, if it's criminal or not, she's not a criminal attorney. So it does make sense to me to do that. I think we're muddying the waters with other things like rescinding the letter and all that. I think we should just stick with the matter at hand of doing the referral. So can I do a friendly amendment to it that we just do that part of it? Yeah. But I do think I think you said the Attorney General, the District Attorney's Office.
And the grand jury.
And the grand jury.
Yeah. Can I just comment on that? Because to the mayor's point, yes, I think the referral will allow it to go its course and it'll be whatever. The second part, though, is that I just want to be clear that the state has started looking into it, and the county's implication, and now the county's application for additional funding is out there. I think that, and again, whatever the council's pleasure is what it is, but I think we are harming our relationship with the state that we are reliant on for funding when instruments like this go out, and it makes us look like we won't correct an error when we see it. And so, Mayor, whether or not we follow through with that motion or not is the council majority, but I do want to maybe then break the three down into three different motions, so that way then there can be a record of where we stand on the matter.
I thought you just accepted his friendly amendment.
Oh, to send the referral out, yes. But I do think, though, that when we find errors, it's sort of like when you have a student in school and they do something wrong, you correct them, right? We have a former student that did something that was really wrong. And that will go through its process. But I think our partners having a letter that says we're committing up to $824,000 is something that should be rescinded. Now, if the council says no, that's fine. The council says no, but it should be referred out.
Through the mayor, I just wanted to clarify before there's a vote for clarity, the direction to refer out, notify partners, and send back to council. Is that direction to the city manager's office to do those things, or who is it being referred out to?
Oh, I think just so we're clear, the Attorney General, the District Attorney's Political Corruption Unit, and the grand jury. I think.
But who is doing the referral?
Oh, the city. Well, the city attorney's office would do that.
So I think we have to do that, if anything. So 2 of those items are only within the authority of the city manager. The referral we can do, but we still have to do it in partnership with the manager's office because we don't have the information.
Well, I think as an organization, we need to work together, right?
It's a given. We just wanted clarity.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second that contained a friendly amendment. Okay? Council, please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, we are now moving on to our next agenda item, which is 3.2, Council Investigatory Ad Hoc Committee. And I will just go ahead and start because I was the one that put this on there. You know, over the past several months, I've had council members, you know, city staff, and community members come to me with concerns. And we've actually said it up here about concerns about our council. And we just got through talking about alleged abuses, perceived authority, conduct unbecoming of a political official. One staff member came to me and said, you know, can't you make this stop? You know, it makes us scared for our jobs, it adds a level of stress, and the person said it was affecting their health. And they looked to me because I'm the mayor. I'm the mayor, I am the presiding officer, I am the one that's supposed to be leading the group. And when I continue to get concerns that are being brought forward to me, I too have a responsibility to ensure that we have order, trust, stability, and that is maintained within our city government. That's why this item has been agendized tonight. It's not about prejudging anyone. It is about acknowledging the concerns that exist, taking them seriously, and creating a responsible process that we talked about to bring clarity and facts forward for the people of Stockton. But let me preface this. We all have one vote. No vote is weighted more than another. And I have no intention of coming into City Hall and directing staff members outside of our charter offices, which is the city manager, city attorney, city clerk, and if we had an auditor, the city auditor. That's something that we all can go and talk to those people. But we have people that are walking on eggshells. When I walk around, because I am here full time, when I do walk around and there are meetings, every computer has the meetings on. Every computer on the second floor had the meeting on, that some of the series that have been going on. And no one should feel pressured. Staff shouldn't be feeling pressured to complete a task or an action that they're uncomfortable with or that they think is not right. No money or gifts should be offered to council members for a vote, nor should a member of this council be threatened before a meeting with a promise to release inaccurate or false information. Coercion, intimidation, manipulation have no business in City Hall, period. There was a live broadcast that went to potentially 8 million followers. And if this is how actions are happening in public, can you imagine what things might be going on in private and behind closed doors? So as electeds, we should be held to a higher standard of the people we represent, as was demonstrated here by the many speakers. And decorum should be practiced on and off of the dais. So no elected official should speak, in my opinion, about a colleague or anyone for that matter, or their family members.
Point of information, Mayor, the clock hasn't started. I don't know, are we putting 5 minutes or
Oh.
limited time on this matter?
Sorry. No, everything should be 5 minutes.
So I don't know how many minutes that was, but
I only have one little paragraph left, okay? With all of that said, there's no conclusions, no predetermined outcome. I'm just requesting an ad hoc committee to examine the allegations, look at the current policies, determine whether new policies should be implemented, or if more serious action is necessary. The information will then be brought back to the council for review, and I'm asking council to approve my request, and I would appoint somebody to that committee.
thank you, Mayor. Let me just say this. First of all, you know, I'm not a softie, but I am very much emotional over all the comments I heard earlier. And I do want to say to the public, I apologize that it has become so broken because, you know, I like the mayor. Let me just be very clear. I don't hate the mayor. I pray for the mayor. She knows when her father got sick, I was the one that had my cousin who's over there make sure that he received the best care. When her house got shot, I texted her, probably the first one up here, to make sure she was good. Whenever we're around kids, we both have a shared passion. I think she is great with young people. I think it's easy being over on this side now to lose your way. And I'm not saying the mayor or me or anybody. It's just there's so much happening, and there's so much happening in our community that I think all of us want to get back to the work. And this, hopefully, her investigation, my investigation, whatever investigation, it allows just it all to be out there so we can get past it, because her passion, my passion, it's unmatched when it's working together. I do want to just say I have procedural concerns that I'll get to, but I want to talk about something because I did a post that I think was probably tasteless, where I went online and I said, well, I said something about Brando. I ain't gonna tell you what I said, but you can go find it. It's out there. But what I said about the mayor, is just a general perception that sometimes people who look like our allies, and I mean we, people of color, they love us or objectify us or sometimes sexualize us, but don't align with our policies, DEI, fair treatment, anti-racism, equity for all those things. And, you know, the way I did it was tasteless because I wasn't getting her attention privately, so I did go to my 8 million followers and I let them all know how I felt, and I stand behind that, and I still feel that way. Racial troping refers to the use of race-based stereotypes and caricatures, often with negative implications to represent individuals. And sometimes in the media, this is how it manifests. These stereotypes are frequently reinforced in movies, books, television shows, and other forms of media, which normalize biased perceptions. It's easy to say I'm the bad guy. Move me to the end of the dais, make everybody think I'm gonna hurt you. We have the best police department in the world sitting right in here that would probably shoot me if I pulled a weapon out, but would also make sure that none of you pull a weapon out and make sure that we're safe. So moving me is just, again, to build this perception that I'm the bad guy. There's a guy that comes in here with a Trump hat on. Sir, I don't know where you are. I don't like Trump, and I don't care what you say. You come in here, you ain't never going to change that. And I'm not Democrat or Republican saying that I think he's bad for America. So there's that. So, but continuing this perception, and I think there's a video that they created to show you. I hope they show the video. I do talk what I talk on my platform. It's the same platform that got people elected. It's the same platform we relied on to get my friends to share it. And I will continue to use my platform because if you remember, when we first started, we were getting shut down, Gavelgate. We couldn't talk. Me and Councilmember Enriquez were fighting about the ad hoc. We weren't able to advocate and do the mandate that we were elected to do on behalf of our districts. I love my district. I grew up in my district. I live in my district, and I care deeply about my district. And so I'm going to always advocate for them, but I also love the rest of the city. And more importantly, I do love the idea that we can change our image. And part of that is I've been addressing concerns around our storytelling. So I want the mayor, and I've said this to her, and I text her, I said, you know, I thank you for publicly sharing your comments at the last meeting. As hurtful as it was to hear her describe me that way, knowing how much I've looked out for her personally, not the campaign donations, all that's just money. money comes and goes, right? But when somebody actually checks on you, sends you flowers, making sure that you're okay when you're going through trying times, that should actually mean for something. And up here, it just doesn't, and that's fine. But what I will say is this. I do have procedural concerns that I will address when it goes through its process. What I will say as it relates to the problems here at City Hall, let's be very clear. The veil is now dropped. I'm no longer hiding behind the wall, trying to resolve things. I'm gonna bring it all right here because there's been months and months and months of trying to resolve issues. The first 6 months here, the mayor knows she worked her job full time at the school, and I was here every day watching the fox in the hen house because we had lots of problems at City Hall. Staff will tell you. When I came in, I was really hard-ass, but I was fair, but I was really very clear about what my concerns were, accountability and transparency, and it was because before I got here, there was a list, a hit list provided to me of all the staff that needed to go because they were Harry Black's people. The city attorney was on that list, our city clerk was on that list, and there's people back here I'm not gonna name who are on that list. I didn't go with that. In fact, I fought against firing these people because these people been here 20, 30 years. They've held the city down longer than all of us. They're gonna be here after we're gone. So that meant something to me. So, and the mayor knows that I've referred this out to agencies already. So there's already stuff happening where she knows these matters are being investigated. But I have procedural concerns I'll share for my next 5 minutes. Thank you.
Councilmember Villapudua.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Losing my voice here. I just want to say that I have not only heard complaints from people, but I also been on the receiving end on some of these attacks myself. I know firsthand what this looks like. I've seen it and I witnessed it with my own eyes. Staff at City Hall, people in the community, and many of my own constituents have come to me with worries about the appearance of the council member Lee is doing. The appearance that he's conflicts of interest, appearance that he's running in the city by himself, the appearance that he is steering public money, opportunities towards his friends, his business partners, and his nonprofit organization. And every time these issues come up, he refuses to step back from the situations where this is very clear he has a conflict. Everybody up here knows at the end, the public should know that there are hostile work environment complaints involving Councilman Lee. I'm not naming anybody, but the public deserves to understand the seriousness of that. But I'm sure that Councilman Lee will do what he always does, gaslight, and try to make his own bad decisions someone else's fault. So for me, it's our duty. I think it's necessary to look into these concerns, what I believe are valid concerns and potential violations of not only the law, but of our own city charter. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so coming back to you know how the process works, we have the process, and this isn't going to be using staff time. It's just looking at what the different concerns and issues are. Just because we say something's true doesn't necessarily make it true. We have to look at everything first. I can't just come out here and say, well, I was still full-time mayor. I was up every morning at 4 a.m. answering emails, returning emails, doing calls. I never missed a meeting. I attended weekends, doing 5, 6, 7 different things on weekends and nights, and coming in actually City Hall after hours. I sometimes was the last one to leave City Hall. Many times I've been the last one to leave City Hall. To say that I wasn't doing my job, I believe, is disingenuous. But let's go back to the item at hand, which is the ad hoc. I do see that I have Councilmember Enriquez on here, so I will go to you then next, and then to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And just for point of clarification, City Attorney, can you just give a breakdown, and I ask because I want to make sure the public knows, but also just for me, 11 months in, I recall when we did the censure ad hoc creation, earlier in the year, there was already council members that had approached council or the city attorney or the city manager with documented evidence that was submitted and that was given signatures and documents, videos, pictures, etc. What would be that difference between creating an ad hoc for censure versus this, where I see 2 pages of text, but to the mayor, as she started her opening, these specific allegations? I would hope that in any agenda item that we have, there's already PowerPoints by our staff, specifics. All I see is a whole lot of nothing. So I would like to know the difference between those two, where I believe Vice Mayor Lee and Councilman Padilla provided documented evidence versus this ad hoc creation. I would get the difference between an ad hoc for the city manager, which we know is pretty evident in terms of what we're looking for and starting that process. But I would like to just reiterate, if you can share the process just for the public, please.
So I'll highlight the major differences between censure, the censure process, which includes an ad hoc if the process moves forward after coming to the council, and general ad hoc formation. So for censure, for censures to occur leading to that investigatory ad hoc, that has to be initiated by 2 council members on your own, and it has to be submitted to the clerk, and you follow that process, and then it comes to the council, and if the council decides to move it forward, then there's a formation. There are rules, restrictions on who can participate. It doesn't allow participation by initiating members, so the people that filed the complaint and the people that are the person that's the subject of the complaint. Censure is, initiated, and the process is moved forward with an eye toward censure, which is essentially a resolution passed by council at the end if that's council's desire. It may consist of up to 3 members for the ad hoc committee under the censure process, and the committee, if it moves forward and the ad hoc is formed, they do an investigation, and then they make a recommendation to the council. There's a report written, and then the council considers that and decides whether to censure. The council can pass a resolution of censure, but they can't take any other actions. It doesn't preclude a separate process where the council addresses it via other remedies, but that's the censure process. So it's essentially, if you wanted to do something other than a resolution of censure, you'd be talking about a 2-step process. The ad hoc process that the mayor is talking about is per your council policy. It has to be initiated by 4 or more council members. It basically looks at any and all options that might be available, so a 1-step process. It allows participation by whoever the mayor appoints, assuming majority support the formation of the ad hoc. It may consist of up to 3 members, consistent with policy requirements. And the committee, again, same process. This committee makes a recommendation to the council, and then the council can take any action it sees fit. The difference being that they're not limited to, say, resolution of censure. They can take any other actions, including referrals, et cetera.
Great, thank you. And I asked because, again, I would just say this for the record, too. And I know, Mayor, you were trying to help out right now when you said that this isn't a censure, and I'm quite aware. I asked that because I wanted to reiterate to the public, and that's not my effort to even try to censure the vice mayor. I did that to ensure that the public was reminded of the breakdown. So again, Mayor, it's a little bit distracting when you're nodding your head and you're telling me things when I'm trying to listen to the city attorney, and the public is also trying to listen. So I just want to note for the record that it is distracting. Ultimately, I would say for this investigatory ad hoc committee, I had other colleagues that have shared earlier today that it's distracting. It's exhausting. The public is exhausted. I would hope that after if we start counting, this is investigation number 7 or 8 at this point, and it's only been 11 months, we're all tired of it. So the fact that when our presiding officer and others, including myself, have all shared how tired we are, yet late October, early November, we now want to throw in another investigation when we can say, wow, what other options do we have to have a discussion like adults and discuss what we can and cannot do? But yet, instead of going that route, we want to play up on each other and one-up each other like we have been for 11 months, and I still don't get why we're doing this to each other when ultimately we want to unite and move forward like we've always said. The mayor has eloquently said, tomorrow's a new day, today's a new day, let's move forward. And I took that to heart. I said, you're right, Mayor, it is a new day. Let's move forward and think about what we can do to a clean slate. The mayor and I disagreed one time at the last meeting. We got off the dais and we were talking like normal because, again, we don't take things seriously. Same thing with other colleagues of mine. At least I don't take things seriously, personally. Thank you. No, thank you. I do take it seriously. I do take it seriously. But all that to say is that ultimately, you know, we all come in here, we do our research, we have our questions, we know what we are going to say. Ultimately, this whole thing is just another headache that we're adding to the masses. I want to say, you know what, let's have a special meeting. If it's with the earlier agenda item, we talked about XYZ, and now we're talking about this. Why have we have a special meeting where we can just all 7 of us sit down and just talk about the issues of what has happened the last 11 months? I am more than able to do that. In many ways, it is up, but it's not up to. We all can do that. But I also look to my presiding officer to be a leader and to step up and bring us together and build consensus. So for someone that brags about 16, 17 years, I don't buy that. And that's no disregard to you. We all have different levels of experience. But when I see 16 and a half years of experience and I don't see consensus and leadership, that's questionable to me, and it's even more questionable to the public. So to now add investigation number 8, let's have a special meeting and just hash it out. We don't have to go into the nitty-gritty. We don't have to fight. We don't have to do this and that, or this majority or this minority. We don't need to do any of that. I'm not here to make any assumptions about who's on what side and who's listening to whose ear. But the fact that we're now doing this, and I have 2 pages worth of nothing with no specifics of why there's allegations, what specifically are they? It's just a whole lot of, I got my feelings hurt, now I want to put on an investigation on my fellow colleague, when I should be focusing on homelessness and crime and the people's business, as all these illustrious quotes have been said out loud in the last 2 weeks to the media, typed out, who knows, AI-generated quotes. But if it comes from the heart, you speak from the heart. I don't need any iPad like my colleagues to the left about what I'm going to say, because I know the issues that I'm fighting on. And when it comes to this, I want specifics and I want a breakdown of what we're talking about. And to this point, I don't see any of that. So let's have a closed meeting and let's hash it out like adults and move forward, because right now I can't lean on my presiding officer to be the leader that we all want.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councilman Enriquez, for your comments. You know, I'm going to give Councilman Padilla a compliment, but I'm sitting here watching you frustrated, and I'm on the topic of being investigated. No, I get it, but just, you know, let me give you a compliment first, and then I'll go back to the other point. I appreciate Councilman Padilla over the last several months has tried to be a bridge and has been put in a very challenging position to build a bridge between the mayor and I. And the mayor and I did have a conversation last week before council, right before my seat was changed and all that. And by the way, I'm okay sitting here because this is a better view anyway. I get to see everybody, and I have more elbow room over here. And I like you, Blower, so I can sit next to you. Okay. I'm not worried about none of that. I share the same frustration that all of us share up here, including the mayor and the public, of how to move forward. Somebody earlier said, can we do it? You too, Cynthia. Somebody earlier asked if we could do an intervention. Me and the mayor talked about, and I think I emailed you, city manager, about setting up a forum where she and I can start to build trust again. I think she shared with me privately, and I'll just share if I can, Mayor, that there are trust issues on both sides. My issue of trust stems from the damage that was done by the person we brought into the city, and I hold the conviction, being a part of making that decision, to support him coming in to fix it. That means fixing it for our staff, fixing it for the mayor, fixing it for this council, more importantly, fixing it for the public. I'm not going to attack the mayor. I can come up here and say when the public was thrown out, it was wrong. When the public was yelled at, it was wrong. Sister. That's a distraction. I'm all for having a meeting in front of the public and a mediator to help us figure this out, because there are bigger issues like SNAP EBT, lack of funding, ICE, and all the other things. I do want to get into some procedural stuff when I look at, and I agree with a lot of what my colleague right here just said. On this item, you know, through the censure, when we censured one of the council members for flipping off a member of the public, we took photos, videos, we wrote out I'm just talking about the process. We wrote out what the concerns were. We submitted it. Me and Councilwoman Padilla signed it, and we had to absolve ourselves from that process because we wrote the complaint and then it went through its process to investigate. That's fair and impartial. And ad hoc allows the mayor to establish a committee of her choosing and to be involved and lead a process that on paper we don't even see what the concerns are. I saw one of the concerns from the press. I learned about this in the press, by the way. That one of the concerns is my last name is Johnson. My mother gave me a guy's name, and right before she died, I took that name off because that is not my dad. My last name is not Johnson anymore. It is Jason Lee. It was changed in 2022, and it's out there. But that's a conversation somebody could call me and say, why did somebody say Johnson versus Jason Lee? It's already documented. I think that, to my colleague's point, we need to get past the throwing rocks and hiding our hands, or now throwing rocks and pointing fingers, and say, as grown people, how do we sit down and preserve the image of our city, protect the image of our city, and build upon the energy that I know the mayor has, that she knows I have, and that we all have that ran, including Councilman Padilla, who helped us get elected, to fulfill the promise that we made to people, that you made when you went out there. Here's the procedural questions I have. First, a point of information to the city attorney. Has there ever been an ad hoc formed to investigate a council member?
Not that I'm personally aware of.
Okay. The second thing is, in here, in the mayor's opening statement, she mentioned that some staff feel threatened, or I don't know the exact words. Can we even discuss the findings of an employee investigation in public?
You cannot talk about personnel matters for employees in public.
So any staff person that feels like they work in a hostile work environment, that's very defined by our policies and the law, have the right to go through that fair process. That fair process includes them writing a complaint, submitting it, and it going through the process. We've seen that happen for multiple people, and this is not that. The other thing is, my question is, what authority does the city human resources have and city attorney to, let's say the human resources, to investigate the vice mayor of Stockton, because she falls below in the food chain, far below me? That's a question.
It's not traditionally done. When there's a complaint that, is made against a council member, any council member, that those complaints are generally brought to the council so that the council can decide how to address them. I think in large part it's going to depend on how HR is involved, right? We haven't heard anything so far from any of the council about what that might look like, but I think there's no legal prohibition that I'm aware of, but I think that there are practical considerations that we take into account, such as, investigating your boss's boss.
Thank you. I want to note a couple of things. One, I think any staff person that feels like they've been harassed or created a hostile work environment deserves the right to have closure and due process and should go through established protocols. Number two, I want to be very clear that, the mayor's aware of the Kurt Wilson settlement where he got $2 million in tax money. We know that we paid out the last city manager's salary for a year, and we know that there's a pending action that I brought to the city in pursuit of fair and equitable treatment and, claims that are concerning. I think that establishing a process for me that hasn't been established for anybody else in history continues to raise those questions. So I would hope that we resolve this in a different way.
Councilwoman Padilla.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I do appreciate the Vice Mayor's comment in regards to myself trying to get this council back together. For the past 11 months, I've been a mediator, I've been a psychologist, intervenist, whatever you want to call it. I have been trying. I don't know how to fix this. I'm done. I don't want to say the word I'm done, but I truly do not I don't know how to fix this. But, it pains me to continually hear the negative comments that we talk publicly, whether it be on this dais, on social media, about our colleagues. Yeah, sure, I feel some way about one another, but I'm not going to blast it out on social media or say it out here publicly. I try my best. I really do. But I feel like this is why we are here today, because the continually digs, jabs, lack of leadership, whatever you want to call it, those hurt. They really do. As much as you say we want to get past this, comments like that really hurt. We are all human here. There is not one of us that can take, a negative comment and say, I'm just going to brush that off. So how do we get past this? I don't know. She is our mayor. She is our leader. And to my knowledge, this is the only investigation that the mayor has ever called for. Please correct me, city clerk, attorney, if she's called for these 7 or 8, whatever are out there. And so I don't think that's fair to say.
Point of information, Councilwoman, she did call for the well and out investigation.
Okay, so 2. That's different than 8. So that's not fair. So we cannot fault her for trying to do her due diligence. And, the mayor is asking for an ad hoc committee because I truly feel that she's tired. She's broke down. She really has not said much publicly. And as much as you can say she hasn't done this or she hasn't done that, you can say that I'm wrong of her not bashing her colleagues or whatnot. I have not personally seen that. And to me, that's leadership, when somebody respects their colleagues. So I think her, by doing this, is a step in taking control to restore professionalism and integrity. Is number one, her prerogative. And if that's what it takes to put us in the right direction, then so be it.
So I just want to clarify, this is an informal ad hoc, kind of like when we did the city manager search. It's informal. It's not going to require staff time, anything of the such. And in terms of a list of information not being much, there was nothing written for 3.1. So if you want to compare, at least there was some documentation in there. And as far as the first time ever being done, audit committee, first time they've ever done investigations. So the opportunity is there. Whether it's been exercised or not, again, it's up to this council. And speaking of being up to this council, we have to police each other. The city attorney can't police us. The city manager can't police us. The city clerk can't police us. We have to police ourselves, period. And so just to that point of the disrespect and the public, yeah, we're going to play the video. I want people to know the video, what I'm talking about, because not everybody is on social media.
Mayor, is there a way, can I use the restroom real quick? Because I want
Through the mayor, could we please call for a brief recess?
Please.
Okay. We'll take a 5-minute. We're going to call this meeting back to order from the recess. As soon as everybody sits down, Ms. Barrett. So right now this is the video I was referring to, one video.
Race the other night, and I was shut down by the mayor. I used to think the mayor was becoming a Karen, but what I realized is that she's a Trump. And so she's getting ready to be met with all the energy that a Trump would be met with if I had to deal with Trump. See, I don't have to deal with Trump on a national level. Maybe I tried to call out race the other night, and I was shut down by the mayor. I used to think the mayor was becoming a Karen, but what I realized is that she's a Trump. And so she's getting ready to be met with all the energy that a Trump would be met with if I had to deal with Trump. See, I don't have to deal with Trump on a national level because I don't see him. I have to deal with Trump in Stockton. There's nothing worse than giving somebody your trust, giving somebody your vote. This woman took all our money to get her in office, all the support of my campaign people to get her office, all my team. She had a man that wasn't even hanging up her signs. We had to go hang up her signs. I put $70,000 of my own dollars behind her. Kevin Hart put $50,000. Floyd Mayweather put $50,000 so we could start to create new economic business to our city. This woman has been trying to get me arrested, trying to get me locked up. She's been trying to refer me to the DA since I've been there. Got caught, And then I found out that she met with the police chief and a third party trying to have me investigated, violating my civil liberties. So you know what I did? I notified the city that I'm suing them for $15 million if they don't get their shit together. And guess what? They ain't gonna get it together because these people are so used to people being able to be manipulated or be intimidated, but you can't intimidate me. You can't. What you gonna do, kill me? The mayor has taken it upon herself. When I tell you, first y'all saw her beating the gavel. Then she told all the people, if you want to vote me out, good luck, you can't vote me out. Then she shut down the meeting and threw out a bunch of black women the other day. Y'all need to go back. I'm going to put the video together online. It's online. It's online. But I'm going to post the video for everybody to see. But what she don't realize is that at the next meeting, if she behaves that way, we're not going to allow it to happen. I shared my platform with this woman. I will never publicly support her again. They said she beat a little black boy at the school where she was the principal. I saw the video of that. I thought they were lying, but after looking at the video, I don't know. Maybe there's this theme of hating black and brown people. When ICE came to Stockton, silent on that. So she didn't care about the Mexicans. This past council meeting, she brought her black goddaughter up there to say the prayer as to make us think that because she got a black goddaughter, she cared about our issues. We already know. People who love our penises don't love our policies. So let's be very clear. I don't want to hear shit else. I've been very temperate and very measured, allowing this woman to be whatever she wants to be, but no more. 6 months she worked at the high school full-time and worked at the city full-time. You're not even supposed to have 2 full-time jobs. I had her back, but you know what I had to do? Spend full-time in City Hall, making sure shit was under control when they were providing fraudulent budgets, all type of craziness. And you know I got receipts. Y'all know it.
Vice Mayor.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say publicly I stand by everything I said. But because I have the constitutional right of free speech, and unless Trump has changed that in our Constitution, that hasn't left. The second thing I will say, the only part about the video that I think was in bad taste was saying that they like our penises and not our policies. But that is the truth through the lens of a black man in America, and I'm sorry if you feel that way, but I'm not sorry. What I will say is I think that the relationship with the mayor and I reached a breaking point when I believe that the advocacy that I was making on behalf of marginalized groups of people, my district, and the people who come to this podium every meeting and complain were not being heard. That said, I do think the breakthrough is happening where we are having conversations about the need to restore trust, the need to work together, the need to govern as a group. I think there's lots of passion up here and lots of heart. There was another video that I posted about Councilmember Villapudua that I also stand behind. That was very vagrant, well, I don't know, it was disrespectful as hell. And I meant every word of it. What I said in the video, I think was repeated here, right? That concerns that I have here. And so, yeah, I don't apologize for using my free speech. Now, if the council believes that I exceeded the boundaries of what proper decorum is, there's a process to go through the censure hearing where people can write a formal complaint, go through that. That should happen. If it's for that video, I would wear that censure with a badge of honor. As far as the employee complaints, if there's employees that feel concerns about me or any other council member up here, because we all know that employees should have a right to work in a safe environment, they should complain to the fraud and abuse hotline that's established for that purpose, and they should go through our internal protocols where it can be addressed through an investigatory process where they are protected from a neutral third party and everybody's rights be respected. Because a witch hunt using taxpayer resources in order to go after somebody who's already notified you that they intend to sue the city, and I will own that, I did tell them that, was for these very purposes. And I think if you look back over the history, and again, I wasn't at Edison when the kid thing happened. I'm telling you what people in the community said, and she's aware of that. I can't speak to what happened with Kurt Wilson. I wasn't here. He got $2 million of taxpayer money. I can't speak to all the tenure of Harry Black. I wasn't here for that.
Point of order. This is about just forming the ad hoc.
But the video that you just put up for evidence,
yes,
right, specifically speaks to comments that I made. And in that, I said that
all it was just one example.
I'll go off the video because I stand behind the video.
Okay.
When you said earlier that there was no documentation provided for item 3.1, this entire binder is about 3.1. And there's not even one piece of paper about 3.2. Just for the record, I want to put that out there. What I would say in an interest of moving forward for this council to consider is because we have to walk the talk. When we say we want to move forward and build a bridge to unite our city, let's have an open forum meeting, special meeting where the public can come and watch us hash all the concerns out, deal with it all there, and move forward and do the work of the city. But to create, and hold on, we don't need to do that, but because here's why. An ad hoc, I can tell you right now, these won't be 2 of the 3. They won't be. These 2 will not be 2 of the 3. And then, hold on, and then there'll be an ad hoc that'll come back and say his last name is Johnson, he hates the city of Stockton, he's a horrible individual, because we can't talk about employee issues because we just heard from the city attorney that has, I can't see, well, your head's in the way. We just heard from the city attorney that we're not going to be able to hear employee issues, so that'll just be lingering out there, right? So I don't think that the process would be fair, and it will just create more suspicion, more doubt, and more division. But I do think that any concerns that are out there should go through proper investigations that don't involve my colleagues, because we need to be able to move forward. The last thing I do want to say for the record, and this is new news, probably for this council and for the media, and I'm not going to name any names, but the Attorney General's office met with several people here concerned about the fragile institution that we are holding together here. And that information has been months and months of discussions and sharing of information with the Attorney General's office. And so to make the allegation that staff are afraid of me, when I know the conversations I'm having with the Attorney General's investigators, flies in complete contradiction. But I welcome any investigation. But we as a group need to figure out how to get back to working. And I think an open forum where we put it all out there, and I say all of the concerns that the mayor's raised, I think is a fair start to that process. Thanks.
Councilmember Villapudua.
Mayor, if you have anything to say, I want to make a motion. If not, if you're going to say anything else. I'd like to make a motion from the mayor's appointment to at least have 2 members to the ad hoc committee, and I would like to be one of the volunteers.
Okay, a motion has been made.
I have an amendment to, oh, you want a second? Because I have an amendment. You want a second first? Because I got an amendment.
I'll second it.
Okay, cool.
Through
All
the
right,
mayor.
so here's my amendment to this motion. I think we amend the motion to have an ad hoc to look at whether or not Councilwoman Padilla lives on her sister's couch in Lodi, whether Councilmember Villapudua lives with his mom in District 3, whether or not the allegations against Brando Villapudua from his family member gets investigated, and whether or not Mario has orange shoes or not walking his district. I mean, I think we should just add every rumor that we ever heard, because I still don't know what the basis of this investigation is. And so, Mayor, no, we can have a discussion on the motion. Sorry, you should read the rules.
You can do an
Read the
amendment.
rules. We can have a discussion on the motion. I know you don't do that. I think that I'm still unclear, and I think the public is unclear, what are all the charges? That Instagram video, some staff that said they feel some certain way, like where's the document?
It's an informal audit committee. There have been no conclusions made. There is no in-depth
What are the
search
boundaries? What are the
for anything.
boundaries?
Until documents are reviewed and policies are looked at. It can last up to a year, and the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong. It does not have to be 3 people. It could be 2 people. Can't be 1 person, obviously.
It does not. It just has to be less than a quorum.
Yep. So, yeah, and it would come back to council. If there was anything, it would come back to council. A report will be written, as was changed in the council policy that the legislative committee did. But so what was your
Wait, I'm sorry, the point of information or point of order. The council policy that was approved from the legislative committee related to section 406 is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's a council investigation, so what?
No, there's a mayor's ad hoc
No,
specifically on
What
that.
I'm asking is, are you saying that, because you referenced the committee. What the committee approved was Section 406 and development of a policy for there to be a council-sanctioned investigation that goes through subpoena, testifying under oath, and all that. Now, if you want to establish a Section 406 hearing where people have to come in and raise their right hand and testify under oath and can be subject to perjury, then that is a different thing. But the ad hoc that's never been formed to investigate council members is broad and ambiguous, and without a written complaint, does leave the city open for exposure.
Well, thank you for that. But we do have a motion. We have a second.
Through the mayor, can I confirm the motion is for you to serve as chair of the ad hoc and Councilmember Villaputo to serve as the vice chair?
No.
No? Okay. Could you please clarify who would be serving on the ad hoc?
I would be appointing somebody who's really good at homework.
Okay.
So Councilwoman Padilla.
Okay. And there would be no other members, just
No.
the two of you? Okay.
And
Thank you.
Point
Appreciate
of
the clarification.
information, point of information.
So
point of information.
Councilwoman Padilla has had her light blinking.
Yeah, but I have a point of information to the city attorney. So what I want to understand for the record, because all of this is being done on the record. Without clear guardrails, are we saying that the city of Stockton is now going to entertain an ad hoc to do an open-ended investigation on a sitting council member for up to a year with no written complaint based on an Instagram video? I'm trying to understand, because there's no written complaint. Because the mayor didn't create an ad hoc when Councilman Padilla lashed at the people and threw people out. So, like, I'm just trying to understand what we're doing. So what is the boundaries? I mean, there cannot be a boundaryless investigation on anybody. That's to me reckless.
The ad hoc will look at current policies, any potential allegations. There will not be interviews.
Where will you get the allegations from?
And determine whether new policies should be implemented or if more serious action is necessary. And that information will come back to the council.
But where will you get the information from? Is there going to be a posting on the city website asking for people to submit their
No,
complaints?
it is an informal. It's not agendized. It's an ad hoc, informal ad hoc.
Mayor, what I'm trying to get at, I'm not trying to argue with you. What I'm trying to understand is, what is, like, when we thought there was an issue with DEI and deconstruction, we launched a specific.
This is very different.
What I'm saying, obviously, what I'm saying is we launched an investigation specific for 2 issues that we identified in public. What I'm asking for procedurally is to define the scope of the investigation. Even our own police department cannot go out and just generally investigate anything they want without probable cause or reasonable suspicion. I think that level of accountability needs to be placed here. And again, I pointed out for the record that I knew these 2 wouldn't be on it. So I'm only asking, what is it that...
There was only a general list of items in there. I do have a longer list of things, but that's what the ad hoc will discuss, and whether or not, how deep we go. If we go, outside, it wouldn't happen until inside sees it, meaning all of you.
Okay, the other thing I want to point out, Mayor,
Okay.
point of order.
You don't have the floor.
Okay, so
I did not recognize you. I let you do information.
point of information then.
So, Councilwoman Padilla.
Thank you, Mayor. All I want to clarify is because there's been a lot of ask about public. So, to my knowledge, ad hoc meetings are public and they're streamed. So, what is the ask with regards to it being public?
Are you asking? Oh.
My colleagues were saying that this should be public. And to my knowledge, all ad hocs are public. The constituents public can attend, and the meeting is also streamed. So there was questions asked, why can't this be public and out in the open?
City Attorney, can you answer that?
Sure. Ad hoc committees traditionally in the city of Stockton have been treated as almost the same as standing committees, where you meet in public and you have staff present and you have public comment and all the whole shebang. It's not actually required for ad hoc committees under the rules because they're not considered Brown Act bodies. So it can be done according to the will of the council.
Thank you for that clarification.
Councilmember Blauer.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I've just had it up to here with investigations and all these things. And the one thing I see here that gives me pause under the recommendation, and I'd like clarification here, is where it says to conduct a thorough review of allegations involving Vice Mayor Jason Lee, coordinate with the city attorney, human resources, and any outside legal or investigative professionals as needed. That concerns me.
As needed. That's the key.
So as
Sure.
needed. So but is this ad hoc going to have the ability to like hire outside counsel, or is that all going to have to come back to us? City attorney, would that have to come back to us? I've just seen us waste money on investigations, and I'm sick of seeing money go out the door for these investigations that don't tell you anything anyway.
Certainly, Councilmember. It depends on what this council decides to do. The council has the ability to delegate that authority on formation of this ad hoc so that if needed, they can go and do so. But if the council doesn't authorize that, then it would have to come back to the council.
So there's something on the floor. There's a motion on the floor.
And a second.
Does that include the language that's here in the recommendation? Because if so, I mean, I don't want to give the ad hoc the authority to hire outside attorneys and investigators and stuff.
Well, then you can vote accordingly.
Okay, so just to be clear, the motion on the floor includes that authority for the ad hoc. Is that correct?
Well, Councilmember Villapudua made the motion.
So point of information on
Okay.
the what we're voting on, just so we're clear, just so I understand it. So what you're saying is, the city, what you're asking for is for approval to
I'm asking to
authorize-
vote on a motion.
So, wait, no.
That's what I'm asking
But
for.
we're trying to understand the motion for the record. So what you're asking for is for the council to authorize unlimited city resources for the ad hoc committee to investigate me for whatever it wants, for up to a year.
If there is anything necessary to do at that point, but right now, it is just looking at the information that we have. It's no conclusions have been drawn. It's not saying that we're hiring an investigator. It's not saying we're not hiring an investigator. All we're doing is looking at our policies, the information we have. Heck, we might come up with a policy that goes to Ledge Committee or comes before council for a vote. That's pretty much it. It's informal. And there is a motion. Okay.
But there's no limit on the resource.
So there, call for the question.
Through the mayor, I just want to clarify that the motion is to approve as agendized with the selected members being yourself and Councilmember Padilla, and that includes the hiring of the investigative.
If it deems necessary.
Okay, I just wanted to
Only if
confirm.
it deems necessary.
And the motion maker, okay, and the seconder, okay, thank you.
Okay, council, please vote. Yes, it does. Carry 4-3. That concludes our meeting with Councilmember Enriquez, Blauer, and Vice Mayor Lee dissenting. Okay? Okay, meeting adjourned.